given the history of the violence perpetrated against Native women, our organization, we are a local project of a larger organization known as Redwind Consulting, and they've been around for over a decade now. Yeah, so about 4 years ago, they started a local nonprofit or a local project, and that is Haseya Advocate Program. So we work with Indigenous survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking here in El Paso County. And we do all kinds of services that we can offer. So we do everything from court accompaniment to helping them fill out protection orders to getting public assistance programs, to support groups. During COVID, we kind of got creative with our support groups with social distancing. So the program director actually owns a lot of kayaks, so I think 9, maybe 10 kayaks. So we were like, oh, we're going to do support groups on kayaks. How cool is that? It was really amazing to be able to see people who are kind of deathly afraid of water and then, kind of barely go at it, and then by the end of it they were wrapping around the lakes. So we always take them in Memorial Park, which is just a mile around it, fairly safe. And then once people got comfortable enough and they were wanting to do that more frequently, we were able to do like an entire day group of an entire women's group on 11 Mile Reservoir, and those same women who were deathly afraid of water were going this way and that way, and at the time we were having to go back and like, all right, let's find everybody on the lake now. Day to day, it's interesting because we do different things. One day I have a full 8 hours or not 8 hours, but close to, of court accompaniment, and then the next day I am running from public assistance office to, looking for rentals for our housing program that we have. So we have a transitional housing program, and the requirements are you have to be over 18 years of age. The last incident of violence has to be within the last 6 months of your application date, and then you have to be homeless or doubled up secondary to the violence. And to get to our transitional housing program, you have to do an intake with Haseya program and meet those requirements first. So yeah, we're doing a huge push for that right now. We've been working closely with our Native organizations kind of in our surrounding areas, and then just seeing what that looks like for each person. We work with women or sexual assault survivors, so sometimes we do sane accompaniments too. We've done them from midday, early morning to 1, 2, 3 in the morning, any time of day. So we've learned, how to work with our survivors and what they need in that time, how to identify. Like I mentioned earlier, some people have slept on this until they're ready and they're comfortable to take the next step. Another thing that our community has called out for is creating a hand drum hand drum group. So it's called our Sisters Voices. Myself and many other community members have been able to join that, and we're working towards getting people hand drums, and just learning these songs and being able to kind of reclaim that. So there's few women who went there who have never sung before or know these songs, and so a few months back we were actually able to present at a national conference. That was amazing, and they paid an honorarium for the group, so I think that's going to be utilized to provide drums for other people. This is our intake room. This is where we meet with our potential participants. So you can sit wherever you want. If they have children, there's some books in there, some little activities just to keep them in kind of, doing their own thing while we engage the people about what their current situation is. Our intake is fairly quick, takes maybe 15 minutes, and the participants can identify as much as they want. They don't have to tell us a bunch of stories. If they want to talk about that, we can talk about that. At that time, we maybe move to a different area, so then there can be a separation from the children's whatever age they're at. At that point, I think it's important to realize that when people are coming here, they've already talked to the police, they've already talked to CSPD advocacy, they've talked to a DHS worker, all of these people. So then, telling their story over and over and again can be healing for some, but others, it's like, I have to do this again. I have to relive it again. It could have happened a few minutes ago or a few hours ago, a few days ago, whatever. So really, we just want to make them comfortable and feel like we're here to help them versus invade their life and tell them what they need to do. So we also had a resource closed down a few years ago, and so we found that we need court appropriate clothing. So these are all of our court appropriate clothing. If you want to volunteer to help us steam it, sort it, that would be amazing. We have everything from undershirts to leggings to bras, and then we have an entire dresser full of undergarments that they can access. Hair ties, really anything that they need. If you look back there, we also have native made jewelry, so we're a little bit more exclusive with that. It's only one per participant. The clothing they may access as much as possible. The same goes with the shoes that we have there. And this is a dressing room, so the door closes and locks, and there's a mirror for them to piece everything together. Okay, so here is our hygiene area. We are running a little bit lower on supplies, and they can access this, if they're fleeing the violence, if they're getting ready to move to a different state, however, their situation, it's case by case always. And then here is our food pantry. They can access this as much as possible. These are for emergencies only, so midweek you're not able to get off of work to go in time to meet the food pantry, or holiday seasons, you need food for your family, your home, or even just yourself. You can access this, and we do accept donations of non-perishable foods year round, so that's always in stock. We have some diapers available, we have some even dish soap, washing material, all of this good stuff. We're the only organization off the reservations that are doing that. We have two here in Colorado Springs, or not. We have two reservations in the state of Colorado, and it's not something that we'd want to brag about that we're the only ones providing these type of services or for our population that we serve. It's more so, how do we empower more organizations to start grassroots programs like this? Because we're a grassroots program, and we've just been growing and growing. Really anything that our participants identify that they need, we just figure out how we can lose those barriers and see them on their path of healing or career development or even stabilization with their own family. So Monica Snowbird, she's actually working on a MMIW task force for the state of Colorado. I believe that's in its grassroots phase, but they have been able to present and accomplish a lot during that. They're actually currently working on an MMIW bill currently, that they're looking to get that passed. We also we have part of our technical assistance side, there's somebody that's working on showing the rest of Indian country how they can build programs like ours and how they can really provide these services and get creative. Monica does a lot of training with CSPD advocacy, and so when she goes in there, and she not necessarily just advocacy but the cadets, when she goes in there she really outlines the cultural differences. And if you're responding to a call late at night and you go inside the person's house and you touch like traditional or like sacred things to us, like eagle feathers or their hair, or just make kind of small comments, that automatically can turn somebody off from looking to seek those services to, I'll just figure this out on my own. And it doesn't always have to be like that. So one of our things that we're really proud of is we've had a few families go from homelessness to home ownership in the last few years. And that was just kind of chronic homelessness to being a home ownership. With the rate of housing right now, that's kind of dialed back just a little bit, but we're still working towards, every year trying to get somebody into home ownership or working towards that. And we have a financial class or financial fitness workshop that we do. So we talk about your relationships with money, our kind of traditional values around money, how to identify financial abuse, and then where we start with credit and savings and everything like that. Some goals are, have in 3 months have $50 in my savings account. Some goals are take my credit score of 550 up to 600. And we work with them to eliminate those barriers or create action plans on how to make that a tangible goal. Another one of our good kind of success stories are, so we've had 100% reunification with ICWA cases, Indian child welfare cases. So really anything that our families identify, we help assist them with that. So myself and Monica Snowbird, we are certified to, and it's state accepted and court accepted to facilitate positive Indian parenting classes and positive nurturing classes. So we were seeing that a lot of our women go to these DHS parenting classes and they're not able to, not necessarily just DHS, but anywhere that they're provided, they're not able to really connect because there's such a huge cultural difference in them. So that's when we were able to get certified for those classes and then create them here and see how that works for any of our families. We try to we personally vet all of the organizations here in Colorado Springs. If we don't know about them, we learn about them, we see how it is, but we don't do just referrals, we do warm handoffs. So we're never going to do a warm handoff with an organization that doesn't necessarily align with our mission or our purpose. So we work with Denver Indian Center, the workforce program. They are amazing for career development and everything that they do. I mean, a lot of our caseload is on their program as well. So wraparound services. We work with Tessa to get wraparound services as well, especially for their support groups or their PPIRs that they offer. Anything in that way. Partners in Housing is another one of our great partners. We refer to the Justice Center constantly. They're a great resource. Denver Indian Family Resource Center as well. They take care of our people, and I mean, we can refer from here, Colorado Springs, but that doesn't mean that our people have to go all the way to Denver to get to access those services. So as I was talking about earlier, we have our sister's closet full of court appropriate clothing items. So we do take clothing donations from time to time, as long as they're gently used, court appropriate, and not something that you would give to Goodwill. We've had to address that a lot lately. There's a Russell Means quote that is, "Don't give my people scraps," and so absolutely we make sure everything is bougie native style. If I can say so. It's empowering. Sometimes you can go to Goodwill and you can find a few outfits, of course, but when you come here, everything is free services, and then to be able to walk away with really nice court clothes or interview clothes or just professional clothing, and you do get your native bling. So I think that's a big thing, is being able to take that back as well. Is Native women, generally speaking, Native women love our bling, so we got all ridiculous size earrings. Just kind of being able to take up that space in anywhere we go. There we go, volunteers. So we do accept clothing donations, and for some volunteers we do need those items steamed a lot. So if somebody wants to come in and sort them by sizes, kind of divvy them up for us, steam them for us, that would be greatly appreciated. Just kind of make it look a little bit more organized. We do have some organization around the office that we would love for somebody else to come and do. We also have a food pantry that could use some help and just constantly stocking things as our hygiene items. So if you're not able to volunteer in person, another way could be donating. Hygiene items will always accept, non-perishable foods will always accept, and professional clothing. That's really our big three. We do also have community events from time to time, so just helping with maybe organizing some of those. Not necessarily organizing, I would say helping get the materials needed for that, like signage, creating signs, different things like that. We also have an Indigenous healing garden that we look for. So that one is more specific to Native preferences. So just kind of a call out, if you want to come help your community, get more involved with your Native community, please reach out and we'd be happy to work with you. With our Indigenous healing garden, So we don't have water, and we've had it for 2 years now, running water there at least. So each day, twice a day, Monica and I have had to haul 40 gallons of water there and water everything out of the jugs. And it's nice. It definitely keeps you in shape. However, creating a watering system would be amazing. We should have running water this next season, so fingers crossed. Pulling weeds, planting, just making things look pretty. We also have a mural that we would like to, resand, get it going again, and that's from the Native community. So we've had participants, just people in our community, our Native community specifically, come out and their children all paint on this beautiful mural. So they would just give us a call. We call them hotline calls, and they would reach our 719-600-3939, and then they would click either myself or Monica for a hotline call. They would identify themselves, what they're needing, and then if it's a safe to call back. And then that's it. And then from there, we just are able to give them a call, see what's going on, see if we're the right fit for their needs, or give them referrals to wherever they need to go. Really, if they're looking for kind of assistance, the best thing to do is call us and see how we can best support them and wherever they're at. I mean, we have people call after, we have people call currently in the domestic violence situation, or whatever they may be facing. We have people call aftermath, so a big event just happened, police are involved, DHS is involved. We have people who are calling to get involved with services to address something that maybe happened a few years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even like a few decades ago. There's no age range, and I think that's important to remember. We have people younger than myself, and then we have people, like elders in our program, and there's just, everybody brings something to the table. And when we do our women's support groups, I think it's important to see that you're not alone in this situation. A lot of the, going back to a lot of the, traditional intergenerational traumas that we have all faced, kind of, we have little similar stories, but again, generational resiliency also goes into play. We're not currently having any events that are for community based, so anything that's program participants, we keep that in-house. If there is ever community events, we do put it on our social media page, Haseya Advocate Program. Sometimes you can view the Colorado Springs Indigenous page, that's separate from here, but they do plug a lot of our events. We have participated in the women's march. A lot of our clients or just community came out to that to represent, and I do want to say, like, community, you will never be able to identify any of that stuff because of our confidentiality. The only people that know who are in our caseload are myself and Monica, but really when you call out, our community shows up, and that's the great thing about being here in Colorado Springs. So we also have done MMIW rallies here in Colorado Springs, and we've had allies attend that, just people crossing the street and joining the crowd. Let's see, what else have we done? We did a community resource event, Colorado Spring, or just Colorado Native Community Resource events this past summer at the Hillside Hillside, what is that called? The Hillside Center. And we were able to create a Indigenous community resource event there, where we had a bunch of vendors, from anything to career development to programs like ours. I think even Comcast Xfinity was there to sign families up for that 1099 deal. And then we had vendors selling their merchandise, everything like that. Let's see what else. We do community potlucks pretty frequently, so like solstice gatherings, the equinox. We hosted not too long ago, and this one was more specific to our caseload. We did a Halloween event, so for families, they could come and carve a pumpkin and get candy bags, and that was really cool to see. We put another call out, and we got 50 pumpkins. Hauling that was amazing. Creating all of these candy bags, and then kids were able to roast marshmallows. There was food there for everybody. I mean, I think everyone who attended took food home. Yeah, so we're really big on our community feast. That's more one of our big cultural things is bringing something for a potluck. We'll supply a good amount of it. However, just seeing everybody be able to bring a little piece of their own nations, um, that's what really makes the feast. Um, yeah, so the way we do advocacy, we do intense one on one advocacy with any of our participants, and they choose to participate in our program for however long. But the way we do advocacy is how would we treat our sister if she was in this situation? How do we treat our sister, our auntie, our grandma, our cousin if they were in this situation? What services would we want them to reach out to? What referrals would be need to made? Just anything really. I mean, they identify it, we try to knock down the barriers, and help them continue forward on their path of healing, on their wherever they really want to go. That's something that we do circle around a lot, and I think that just continues to build. So when this program first started, it was a lot of referrals, just kind of court accompaniments and what is that, public assistance kind of and support groups. And then from there we've been able to create a food pantry, a sister's closet, have them join in traditional hand drum singing, go towards home ownership, have parenting classes. So I think it just continues to evolve the way that our people identify the needs that they need. um, yeah, that's kind of the biggest thing for us right now. We saw that we're doing this work in our community to heal our women. Our women are showing up, and then when our men would show up, they'd sometimes be called out versus called in. And so, like, hey, where have you been? Like, in a genuine manner, but then it's also like, oh, you're shaming me for not coming, like big auntie style. And so after that, they created a program, Desmond Big Eagle, and that's empowered, and that's to call men inwards. So if they're dealing with substance abuse, working towards healing some of that, and that's just a band-aid for their bigger issues at hand. And then they also work towards cultural healing, so they do ceremonies and sweat lodge. They also work with in partners of, or let's see, how do you say this, offenders of intimate partner violence, and they do a lot of services, and it's nice to see how small his program is right now, and then that's where we were 4 years ago, and just how big it can grow and what they can offer. So, as this interview goes out, a lot of people are going to want to ask questions and going to want to be more informed and more involved. And I think a lot of that's amazing. That's great. Thank you for wanting to contribute to this. However, we get a lot of questions that are could go to Uncle Google, and don't when you encounter a native, and when you work with them, or when any of that stuff happens, I would say don't necessarily just rattle off the first 5 things that you want to say or ask about, or can I touch your hair, or wow, your jewelry's amazing, or any of that stuff. I would say go to Google first. Generally speaking, it wouldn't be kind of, if you want to ask about our tribe, I understand that, but ask the question, how would you feel if that question was reversed to you? So, are you native? It can also be interpreted to, are you white? Like, really? I would just think to make sure that you're able to wrap a lot of that stuff back to you and see how you might feel in that, and not expect everybody to, be your educator. How about you do some of your own studying in that? She always hips on epigenetics and how that trauma will continue in our bloodline. I think we all have a story where we can quote, how it was for our grandparents, and then how it was for our parents, and then when it came to you, did you continue that cycle, or did it stop with you for the next generation? Um, so I think it's also important to realize that, when people identify us as native, it's, are you native? Whoa. And then it's kind of like, we're still here. So to highlight that would be our resilience. Trauma can be passed down, but also so can our resilience. And that's one of the biggest things that we continue to remind the people that we work with, that our community that we see day to day, and just, people who want to be more involved, or, volunteer, donate, however that looks for them. Um, is just understand that we're not we're not somebody who's so broken. You know, there's a lot. We're still here for a reason. We have gone through a lot in our lifetimes, but we're still working to provide for ourselves, our families, our community, and we're resilient people.